It's been just over a week since the 8-player roster deadline, and the teams have been slowly revealing the remaining members of their teams for the 2020 Overwatch League season, with some major announcements just dropping over the past couple of days. Today I'll be covering who's moved where since my last news video, discussing how the sides currently look ahead of next season. Again, be sure to check out my Twitter and Discord, where I will probably be going into further discussion about the off-season moves that have happened, and like last time I'll be approaching each team in alphabetical order. This obviously means that we start with the Atlanta Reign. They haven't got much news to give us, with no further player announcements since the additions to Sharp and Edison last week. However, they have announced the arrival of Mentalist as an assistant coach. Mentalist comes from GC Busan and Korean Contenders, and whilst they've never been the best team, one thing they've always been praised for is the development of promising talent, alongside strategic innovation in terms of compositions and strategies they ran. Therefore, I think this will be another great addition for Atlanta, who quietly have been having an amazing off-season, as it just adds another element to a coaching staff that is looking to take this exciting team that had been on the rise in 2019 to the next level. The Boston Uprising are the next team we come to, and after promoting Swimmer and Muthen from their academy last week, they continue to add to their roster this week with their newest signings Munchkin and Brucer. Munchkin is a name that will probably be familiar to many of you, as he had been a member of the Seoul Dynasty for both 2018 and 2019, before being made inactive midway through this year. The most recent memories of his Brigitte play aren't the best, but I think Munchkin has certainly proved in the past that he's a more than capable hitscan DPS player that has a lot of potential, with his McCree and Tracer in particular being his strong suits. Whilst perhaps his playstyle is a little over-aggressive, I think Munchkin showed in 2018 that when he's on form, he can be a really important player to his team that has the ability to pop off. This is why I think this is a really good pickup for Boston, as a potential partnership with him alongside Colourhex on paper looks really sound, and has a chance to dominate should DPS be important in the next meta. I'd also say the same thing I said for Fletter, which is that this move hopefully works out well for Munchkin, as it did look like he stagnated a bit on the Dynasty last season, so a change in scenery may be exactly what he needed to develop and improve. The other player joining the Uprising though is Brucer. His name may ring a bell if you watched the Overwatch World Cup this year, as he was a member of the Netherlands team that impressed everyone immensely with a fantastic run to the quarterfinals. His Sigma performance there was very impressive and impactful, strongly rounding out what has been a fantastic development for him personally over the course of 2019. After a short run in Contenders in 2018, alongside playing for the Netherlands, he started the year by helping Young and Beautiful qualify for European Contenders through trials, before going on to join Angry Titans where he continued to impress on Diva and Roadhog, despite their quarterfinal exit in the Contenders playoffs. So for him personally, I'm sure this move into the Overwatch League will feel very rewarding. Just like Munchkin, I think this is a really good acquisition from Boston, as he really needed to fill the hole they had at off-tank, and now they have done this with a really talented prospect that has been on the rise over this past year, and may now make a really interesting partnership alongside Fusions on the tank line. After the Uprising, the next team we come on to is the Chengdu Hunters, who up to now have been the only side not to give us any off-season news regarding the 2020 plans, as we were made aware of Lee's arrival during Stage 4. Their silence has finally ended, but unfortunately it's not happy news they bring, as they announced the departure of their head coach RUI due to health problems. This is really sad to hear, given how well he coached for Hunters last season, and indeed China for the past 2 World Cups. His start now may not have been brilliant with the 2018 Shanghai Dragons, but since then he's clearly demonstrated what a high quality coach he is, arguably the best from China, leading the Chinese squad to back-to-back silver medals before taking a Chengdu side, widely expected to be one of the worst in the league, to a play-in spot, all the while they played against the meta with their own unique style and identity. I worry that this may end up being a big loss for the Hunters heading into next season, so it will be important to keep an eye on who they bring in. However, in regards to RUI himself, I really do hope he gets better with time away, so that he can come back as he hopes to Chinese Overwatch happier, healthier and stronger. Let's try and stay positive by next taking a look at what the Florida Mayhem have been up to, as they finally unveiled their major pickups ahead of 2020. First up, they announced their new coaching staff with Kuki coming in as head coach and Docs coming in as an assistant. Starting with Kuki, his name may be recognisable to a few of you as he spent 2018 on the Seoul Dynasty as a backup main tank, before moving to the LA Valiants at the beginning of 2019. However, his stay there was short and full of controversy as he started with Custer at main support, eventually resulting in him leaving midway through this year. Whilst his time as a player didn't see the success he would have liked, his career has taken a massive upturn after he became a coach for Runaway. In his first season he helped them win Korean Contenders before seeing them finish third at the Gauntlet shortly afterwards, with his coaching ability receiving many plaudits over this period. This quick turnaround has now seen him earn the head coaching role in Florida, which is not only a great progression for himself personally, but hopefully sets the Mayhem up with a leader who looks promising and has already had a great impact with his coaching, despite him being relatively new to it. This is where I think the pickup of Docs as an assistant coach could also be very beneficial. Whilst his time on MVP Spacing career didn't see as much success, he's been coaching for a lot longer than Kuki has, and hopefully he'll be able to help him manage the team through his experience. Aside from the coaching staff, Florida have also revealed 2 new players who will be on their roster in 2020, Yaki and Gamnan Jin. Both these players come from Runaway, having enjoyed very successful 2019s, winning the second Korean contender season with Kuki, before finishing third also at the Gauntlet. Yaki has demonstrated over the past year what a talented DPS player he is, which resulted in him being one of the most sought after players this off-season. He is particularly strong on Doom, Tracer and Genji, but is still great on many other heroes at the flex DPS position as well. And our partnership of him alongside Sire player just sounds amazing and should make the Mayhem a legitimate threat. Gangnam meanwhile has also been the focus of a lot of interest, with many arguing he's one of the strongest flex supports coming out of Korean contenders this year, with a nasty Ana and Zen. His addition to this squad alongside Yaki should elevate the Mayhem immediately, and should they be able to build upon the foundations they put in place during Stage 4, they might at last be able to challenge for a playoff spot come 2020. Next we come on to the Houston Outlaws, who themselves have been making plenty of moves recently, both in the player and coaching departments, with their first being Repel. The former Vancouver player spent much of last season behind Twilight at the flex support position, meaning he didn't get too many opportunities to show off his talents and ability, but in the few flashes he did get, he looked promising with potential. Houston picking him up I believe will be a good decision, as in my mind they needed to give Raucus some competition in his position, and whilst he may not take a starting spot, although I wouldn't rule it out, it is entirely possible that the team might get him to focus on Zen for instance, so they can have their players specialise on different heroes to ready themselves for different metas, which can only strengthen the team heading into 2020. The other player joining the Outlaws though is in my mind the biggest upgrade at any position across this league this off-season, and that's because they've brought in Meko at off-tank. For the past 2 years, Meko has shown what a quality off-tank player he has been on New York, with notably strong and consistent displays on D.Va over this period. Although it would be fair to say I still have reservations about the rest of his hero pool at the off-tank position, I was being quite critical of his performances during the midway stage of 2019 that have raised a couple of questions in my mind. However, when you consider that he's coming in to take a starting spot over Coolmat and Spree, you have to applaud Houston for this pickup, as it is a massive upgrade that finally puts some reliable quality on one of their historically weakest positions. Not to mention that he had been perceived as one of the biggest names on the free agent market, which just further highlights how well the Outlaws are doing this off-season. This just leads me to discuss their most recent acquisition, and that's the announcement that Hureg would be joining the team's coaching staff for 2020. Hureg leaving Vancouver was announced over the past couple of weeks, as he decided it was time for him to end his playing career and move into coaching. Houston have now given him the opportunity to do this, and I think this move will suit all parties involved. For a start, Harshaw will clearly have developed a relationship with Hureg during his time with the Titans, that undoubtedly will help him transition into his new role. With all the Koreans joining the team now as well, he will more likely feel at home, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table as a coach. And that's not even mentioning the Hureg effect, that would suggest the Outlaws are now automatically one of the best teams in the league, after his success with London in 2018 and Vancouver in 2019. The London Spitfire are the next team that had news for us in this alphabetical order of teams. And at last, London have finally announced the initial 8 players that make up their roster for next season. After teasers over the past week, the Spitfire revealed that their initial 8 will be made up of J-Mac, Bernard, Hailey, Krillin, Fuse, Sanguinar, Shui and Glister. I've already been discussing the pickups of Bernard and Fuse in a previous video, but I'll just briefly repeat my thoughts that Bernard, while certainly not the level of Fury, is a fantastic pickup that should do really well on London, whilst Fuse's arrival has a few more question marks. In addition to this pair, Krillin's staying highlights the faith that the coaches have in his ability and potential, which hopefully we get more of a chance to see in 2020. With those we knew out the way though, let's start talking about the other new arrivals, beginning with J-Mac. He comes from LG Yuhuya, who have been the best team in Chinese contenders in 2019, winning both contender seasons. From what little play I have seen from him, his play on Ryan and Orisa has been good, and I've heard he has a good Winston as well. Clearly he is a player that the staff really like the look of, but considering his previous team's repeated failings on the international stage at both the Pacific Showdown and the Gauntlet, he'll definitely need to put in some early good performances to quiet down the doubters. Next up is Hailey, who had been previously on the Seoul Dynasty throughout 2019. From his mixed amount of playtime, he showed potential and put in some solid displays on both Ana and Zen. That said, he lost out a starting job to Ryujehong as the season progressed, so I am curious to see what his ceiling is, and whether they intend to have him starting over Krillin. Sanguinar meanwhile is a player that most of you may not know, and that's because he was on the academy team Gen G's own academy team, Gen B. It's a bit odd to hear this, but he's been impressing many with his main support talents, and it's clear that he's a pickup that the coaching staff see a huge amount of promise in, and want to develop as a project moving forward. Shui is an interesting DPS arrival from Runaway, which on paper would sound like a good idea, but you have to remember he was seen as a weaker choice throughout 2019 compared to Hisu and Yaki, which does make me question the overall style quality of him as a player. That said, from what I have seen he looks good, and with the coaching staff at London have brought in, he may be able to improve and impress further. Undoubtedly in my mind though, the Spitfire picking up Glister is a massive move for the team, and he comes in as their best pickup so far this off-season in my opinion. On Gen G throughout 2019, he has highlighted time and again how brilliant of a DPS prospect he is, with clutch and impressive performances both in Korean contenders as well as the Gauntlet. He was one of my highest rated contenders players that I wanted teams to pick up due to his high potential alongside his proven ability. I think this will end up being a great addition in the long run for London. Overall, I think London was clearly downgraded from last season. I put together a really interesting roster that has quite a bit of potential that could really flourish under the right guidance and development from the coaching staff. So whilst I can understand why some fans will be angry and frustrated, I do think there are things about this roster to look forward to, particularly Bernard and Glister. Not to mention this is only an initial 8, suggesting there are more moves to come from the Spitfire this off-season. Whilst not having as much news over this period, New York has still been plenty busy themselves, first with the announcement they've promoted IMT as their head coach. I can't say I know too many details about IMT itself, but I have heard how highly the team regard him, as well as the players rate him, and this certainly explains why he got the job. He is credited with a lot of the team's success during the playoffs, and now at the reins there is a potential for New York to flourish further and finally get over the hump. They have also gone on to reveal 2 new players that will feature on their roster for 2020, with the first being Bianca. He has spent 2019 growing on the XL2 Academy and had a strong end to the season with a very impressive gauntlet showing. From what I've seen, he has a promising off-tank hero pool that he can look to develop further on the main roster, as I expect him to be behind Hopper in terms of the starting lineup. However, this is a spot he could definitely compete for, and having been on the organisation's books for the past year, I expect Bianca to be a big part of the Excelsior's plans moving forward. The other new addition is Mandu from O2 Blast. I can't say I've seen much of his play, but from what I have heard, he's a fantastic Lucio player, but alongside Myongbong, made up one of the best support duos in Korean contenders, so he certainly sounds like a great pickup on paper. And given he won't be 18 until midway through the season, like Sparkle, he'll have plenty of time to develop further and potentially even challenge Animo for a starting gig once that time comes. The Paris Eternal have stayed somewhat quiet since all of their changes in the start of the off-season, but they have just recently unveiled a new main tank they had signed to challenge Benbest, and that player is No Smite, formerly the Hangzhou Spark. I'd be lying if I didn't say this is a very odd move from my perspective, as I don't think No Smite's timing out, or indeed his relegation to contenders, showed me he was ready for this high level of competition, with him often being irresponsible with his positioning. I think people were expecting the Eternal to bring in a much better prospect that would firmly wrestle the starting gig away from Benbest, and to be honest, right now I just see both of them as subpar, meaning that making a decision between the pair was probably going to end up being difficult. In terms of evaluation, I just don't understand the move unless the coaches believe they can improve him massively. But from my own point of view, the main tank position is clearly Paris' weakest position as we head into 2020, which does make me rather concerned, but I guess we'll need to see how the pair play in action first. Philly may have broken the internet yesterday with the announcement of Chipsa, but they still made headlines the day prior with the announcement of another DPS pickup, this time Hisu, another player coming from Runaway, so this time I won't bother repeating the history again. Of the core 4 DPS players that he's now a part of, Hisu clearly needs the most work and development from the coaching staff, but during his time on Runaway he has shown on multiple occasions all the talent which he possesses, and he's demonstrated regularly. He is thought of very highly due to his amazing potential, and I believe he'll be able to make the most out of it on an exciting team that could very well use his hit scan talents in a key moment to keep their momentum going. The penultimate team I want to talk about today is the Shanghai Dragons, who the other night unveiled 4 new members of their roster for 2020, Stand 1, Void, DJ Gon, and Lip. Stand 1 is an interesting addition at main tank, it has to be said. Sure, he showed some promise on the Gladiators Legion, but I never thought he was amazing, and now it appears he might be an unchallenged starter on the main roster. As with most players, I want to give him a chance before I pass full judgment, but he's certainly someone who has to prove himself early on in 2020, as I'm not sure this is the best decision that Shanghai have made. Void had a solid season on the Gladiators in 2019 and was one of the more consistent performers. I think he's a good signing for the Dragons, although I do wonder what they're going to do with 3 off-tanks now in their lineup, however I expect Void to start. Li Jae-gon meanwhile is a great pickup from Runaway, with many including myself seeing as one of the highest quality main support prospects coming out of Korean contenders. Again, I don't need to repeat myself about how strong Runaway have been over this period. This hopefully makes up for the sad loss of Coma, and I'm really excited to see what he can do on Shanghai next season. Lip is a bit more of an unknown, from Blossom in Korean contenders and trials. I haven't seen him at all, but apparently he's a naughty Sombra and has been crushing it on the Korean ladder, which mainly led to his pickup. In my opinion though, this definitely feels like a project which I think the team wants to work on, given they already have star talent at the DPS position with Fletter, DM and Ding. Perhaps he can get involved as a specialist if needed down the line as well. The other big move that was finally confirmed last night, even if it was overshadowed, was that Fissure had officially come out of retirement and joined the Vancouver Titans. This move certainly has a lot of questions, firstly regarding whether he'll come back with the same quality that most people hold to him. This is now his 4th team in the Overwatch League, with all of his other team relationships ending poorly, so it will be interesting to see if his time is different. Only time will tell. I do worry though, that with it apparently likely that he's taking a starting spot, with Bumper now moving on, the relationship and synergy of the team could potentially break down considering that the Vancouver side from 2019 was such a core of friends from their runaway days, and now big egos may get in the way of a team performing well in 2020, so I am certainly worried and I will want to see them get results before I'm convinced. Tonight there have been 2 further headlines out from Vancouver, the first announcing that the team was releasing Bumper. This decision just seems very odd to me, and I've already explained what I fear may happen. Even more confusing to me though is the idea that the Titans management is happily having Fissure as their only main tank, which is certainly a high risk move. Most fans are expressing their anger, which is understandable. Right now I hope Bumper is able to find a new home soon. The other bit of news was the official confirmation that Ryujehong had joined the Vancouver Titans. From an analytical point of view, this move also leads to many questions, as it has to be asked what his role is going to be, considering the team already has an elite flex support in Twilight. From a personal point though, briefly, as a long-time Lunatic High and Seoul Dynasty fan, this does hit home, especially given that Jaehong was the player that got me into watching competitive Overwatch in the first place. So whilst I wish him well, his departure certainly hurts. With that though, I've exhausted all the news I have for you at this moment in time, and I'd like to thank you for watching if you have reached the end of this video. If you enjoyed, then please like, subscribe and follow me on Twitter for this continuing competitive Overwatch coverage and content, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.